Okay, good morning everybody. You're very welcome to this morning's webinar. We've already completed a sound check with the members who logged in early. So it is possible to increase the volume if you're using your telephone device, or likewise if you're using your computer, you can increase the volume on your computer. So today's training session will look at our payroll and auto-enrollment software BrightPay. I'd also just like to say we're delighted to be working with Tax Assist accountants who have such an established and trusted brand in the UK today. Today's session will be about 2 hours. The training session will be presented by Vicky, who is our support manager here at BrightPay. I am aware that some of the members today are currently not using BrightPay, so this will be an opportunity for you to see exactly how the software works. The session will cover how the payroll works, and then we will take you through the functionality of the auto-enrollment features. Please feel free to type in any questions you have throughout the session. So on the right-hand side of your computer where your admin panel is, there's a question tab there. So type in any questions that you have throughout the duration of today's training session. And at the very end, we'll go through the questions and answers at the end of the session. We'll also send a list of all of the questions along with the relevant answers to everybody after today's session. So I'll now pass you over to Vicky, and I hope you enjoy today's training session. Thank you. Thanks, Vicky.
So good morning, everybody. I would also like to welcome you to today's training webinar. So as Karen has just mentioned, I'll be splitting the webinar into 2 sections today. So firstly, I will be taking you through the payroll functionality, and the topics I'll be covering on this is, first of all, how to install BrightPay, how to set up your employer details, how to set up employees, then moving to payroll, how to create and enter pay items, how to process your pay periods and the applicable RTI returns, then how to process mid-year starters and leavers. I'll also take a look at attachment orders and statutory payments with you, and then the analysis and reporting function, and then we'll complete the payroll functionality by looking at the year-end procedure. The second part of the webinar then, I will be focusing on the auto-enrollment functionality within BrightPay. And again, the topics we'll be covering here is how to enter your staging date, how to set up an auto-enrollment pension scheme, employee assessment, how to enroll your employees or postpone them, how to deal with opt-out requests and refunds, the employee communications, batch processing, and enrollment and contribution files. Okay, so we'll get started here. Now, just to speed things up a bit today, I already have the BrightPay software installed, and so I'll just guide you through the installation procedure using this PowerPoint presentation here. Okay, so to download BrightPay, you simply go to our website, which is www.brightpay.co.uk, and you click into the Try Buy section on the website. On here, you will find the download button for the current year version. So obviously we have the 2015-16 version here. Okay, on clicking the download button, you will then be asked whether you want to run or save the software, and simply by clicking run, this will begin the setup wizard for you. Okay, so once the setup wizard appears on screen, you simply click on next, and you're then presented with our end user license agreement, which you can read through, and if happy to accept, you simply tick the button and click next, and then you're asked where you wish to install BrightPay. So BrightPay works, it's a local PC application, so all users install the software to their C drive. Data files then sit elsewhere, and in a multi-user situation, this can be, for example, on a server or a network or a cloud environment, but all users must install the software to their local machines. Okay, so we do recommend the default location, but it can be changed if needed. And we simply click on next to begin the install. So at the prompt, click on install, and the software will just take a couple of minutes to install, and you will then be told when it's completed. So by clicking Finish, okay, that will complete the install for you, and you will be given a BrightPay icon on your desktop, okay, to access the software. Okay. So moving to the software then. So as you can see here, I have the software installed already, and I also have a couple of companies already set up just that I'm going to use later on in the webinar. So to get started, you will simply be clicking on New Employer. Okay, and this will take you through a setup wizard. So I'm going to click on Next. So BrightPay can be used three ways. You can start at the beginning of the tax year. You can tell BrightPay to start part way in the tax year. So for example, if you're a brand new company and you're starting mid-tax year, this will be the option you will be selecting. Or you have the option to continue part way in the tax year. And this option is going to be used if you are migrating from another software provider mid-year. So this option number 3 would be what you choose. Okay, so the purpose of the training today, I'm just going to start at the beginning of the tax year. So we simply click on Next. Okay, and you're then asked for basic employer name and address details. So just bear with me while I type a few details in here. Okay, and I click on Next. Okay, on the second screen then you are asked for your employer registration details. Okay, and this includes your HMRC office name, your employer POE reference, and your accounts office reference. The HMRC office name is optional, but you will require a POE reference in and also an accounts office reference for your RTI submissions. So I will just fill these in here. Okay, and an accounts office reference. These are always such long numbers. 001 825 100. Okay. Underneath that then there's some additional information that you can complete. So if you qualify for this small employers relief, you can tick the box here. And also if you have contracting out pension schemes in place, you can enter your employer contracting out number in the field provided here. Okay. And click Next to continue. So you'll then be asked if you want to set up departments. This is optional. So employees can be organised into departments and they can be allocated to more than one department if required. The allocation of departments, that can be used in one particular pay period. So if you have somebody, say, for example, working in sales part of the week and marketing in another part of the week, you can allocate those departments in the one pay period. Okay, so I will just set up a couple here. Okay. Using departments as well as using it in payroll processing, it will also be helpful in your analysis. So in your reporting function that you can generate reports using departmental analysis as well. Okay, so we'll click on Next to continue. Next, you will be asked for your typical employee details. This is really just to speed things up for you if you have an awful lot of employees. And it means that when you're setting up a brand new employee record, by default, what you select here will be automatically applied to that record. So I suppose just to speed things up for you, okay? So things like what your typical pay frequency, so are your employees, for example, mostly weekly paid, and also how are they paid, and their typical pay method, for example, typical annual leave entitlement. So I'll just leave this as it is and I'll click on Next. Okay. If at the time of setting up your employer file you have your staging date for automatic enrolment, this can be entered in this field provided here at this stage, or you can skip this and enter it at a later date. So I'm just going to click on Next. We'll be looking at auto-enrollment later on in the webinar. Okay, and then you are asked to set a password if you require. So you have a choice here. You can untick the box if you don't wish to password protect your payroll file, or to enter a password of your choice. So I'll enter one in here, and then you're ready to save and finish your file. Okay, So at this stage, you'll be asked where you wish to save your employer file to. So again, if you're in a multi-user environment, maybe your bureau providers, the location here, this is where you would possibly be saving to a server, a network, or a cloud environment, especially if you want shared access of the files, if you want other users to be able to access the same data file. Okay, so I'm just going to save my file here. And my employer file is now set up. So I'm now within my payroll here. Okay, so once you're in your employer file, you will be presented with 7 tab headings along the top. Okay, so to add or edit or view the information you've just set up about your employer, you can click into the employer section here. Okay, so by clicking on edit details, we can see here this is the basic information that we've just set up. And if we click into registration details, again, the information that I've set up during the setup wizard will come through here. Further information can be added on this screen, for example, if you have a HMRC office phone number, for example, and further down, if you are self-employed, if you have your self-assessment unique tax reference number or your corporation tax reference number, again, they would flow through onto your RTI submissions, but they are optional. Okay, if you pay employees using direct BACS or RTI BACS, then you will find the place here to enter your BACS service user number. And also if the employer has signed up with a payroll giving agency, you can enter your reference here just as a record. Okay. Moving over then just to the typical employee. So again, this is another place where you can set your typical employee settings. Okay, and you'll also find again a couple of extra things on here. So how do you want BrightPay to deal with the tax refunds? So by default, we have it ticked to withhold tax refunds when pay is 0. Again, if the company operates their own sick pay scheme, you can turn off the statutory sick pay calculation if any of your employees go out sick. And again, just referring back to direct BACS and RTI BACS, if that's how you pay your employers, then you can also tick this box here, and this will assign the BACS sub-reference for all of your employees on their pay slip every time you pay them, so that can be ticked to here. Okay. Most importantly here is the RTI submissions tab, and basically for you to be able to put your RTIs, to submit them to HMRC, this section will need to be filled in. So first of all, you have the option to choose your sender type, so whether you're submitting as an employer, an agent, or bureau, and then to enter your sender ID and your password details. Okay, so I just enter some test credentials there. Again, you can fill in your contact details here, etc., email address, contact phone number and fax number. Okay, and we can save the changes. Okay, so that's the basic employer information. You also see across the top here in the employer section, you have a variety of items. These are basically global items, what we call employer items, and this allows the user to come in here and set up, for example, hourly rates or additions, deductions, etc., which can then be available across all your employees. So say you set up an hourly rate here. I'll just do one here. For example, by saving this, when I'm processing my employees' pay slips, this particular rate will then be available across all the pay slips because I've set it up as an employer item. Okay, so I'm just going to set up an hourly rate here. I will also be given the option to state whether this is an overtime rate or not. So I would simply tick the box if that's what I require, and I can save. Okay, so as well as hourly rates, daily rates can also be set up, again on an employer level. For example, again, the option to select whether it's an overtime rate or not. And also then, as well as hourly rates and daily rates, you can also set up global addition and deduction types. So if we look at additions, first of all, we have already pre-programmed the most common additions in for you. So for example, if I take a look at the bonus addition here, and we have it already set up that whether it's as a taxable addition or a non-taxable addition, so by ticking the relevant boxes here. If we don't cover one here and you require an additional addition type, you would simply click on New, for example, type in your description for the addition, and then select the relevant options, so whether tax is to be deducted, national insurance is to be deducted, or pension scheme deductions as well to be deducted. What you can also do here is set a default amount as well, or you can leave blank if it's likely to differ from each pay period. And also to set the repetition. So do you want this mileage, this addition type, it's this example mileage, to be applicable to one pay period only, or once you have actually allocated it to a pay slip, for it just to remain there until you choose to remove it? Okay. So I'm just going to say applicable to this period only, and I'm going to click Save. Likewise with deductions, you can also set up your own deduction type. So again, we have one already set up here for payroll giving, but should you wish to add your own in, simply click on New, and say we have maybe a lottery syndicate in place. So again, enter your description. Tick to say whether it it's deductible before tax, NIC and pension deductions, and again you can set a default amount. We'll say it's £5 per pay period, and whether you wish it to be applicable to the one period only or to be repeated until manually removed. Okay, and I click on Save. Okay. BrightPay also has a facility if you wish to set up a savings scheme for your employees. Okay, so I'll just click in here. So for example, you may wish to operate, I don't know, a Christmas savings schemes or a holiday fund, something like that. So this facilitates that here. So it could be, for example, employee savings scheme 2015. And the contributions that an employee may make can either be on a percentage basis or a set amount. So say, for example, my employees wish to contribute £25 each pay period should they wish to join. I can enter that here, click on Save, and that will then be available to apply to each pay slip if it's required. Moving on then just to the final item here, we have bank accounts, and BrightPay allows you to add unlimited employer bank accounts into the software. Okay, so I simply click on Add New Bank Account and just set up the basic information here. So for example, I'll just set up one for Barclays Bank, for example. Okay, so those are the basic details in. So what BrightPay allows you to do is to pay your employees using bank payment file format. So if you are set up with your relevant bank, we cater for basically using BrightPay to produce the bank file, which you then save to a location of your choice on your PC, and then you would then be logging into your banking software and uploading that file in order to pay your employees. So you'll see here, if I just click on the drop-down menu, these are all the bank formats, bank file formats that we currently cater for. So it's a pretty comprehensive list. Okay, so say for example, this is Barclays Bank, and I'm to use the Barclays file format. That is what I select and click on Save at the bottom. In the event that you find that this, you require a different bank format, something that we don't cover here, please do let us know. In many cases, it's just a case of us getting in the file specification from the bank, and it's very quick for us to bring it in for you. So please do ask away if you think, oh no, they don't cover it, it's something that we can usually bring in for you. Okay, so I click on Save. So I now have one bank account set up. Okay. If I could be in a situation where I require more than one bank account to pay my staff, it could be monthly staff or directors are paid from one bank account and other employees from another, I simply click on New and I can add a second bank account in here. I'll quickly set up one here. Example, and again I would choose the relevant bank file format here. You'll see here then that I have the option to set a bank account as being the primary bank account. So if I have more than one set up, I can then tell BrightPay which one is to be the primary one, so which one will come up as the default bank account when I'm paying my staff. Okay, so I'll tick this one to be the primary and click Save. And so now I have my two bank accounts set up here. Okay. So that completes then the employer section of BrightPay. This particular section can be accessed at any time. More departments can be added in, hourly rates, daily rates, etc. can all be brought in as and when you need them to be. Okay. So moving on then, so the next step then before you can process your payroll is obviously to set up your employee details. So you simply click into the employee tab heading here. So employees can be set up in two ways. First of all, they can be set up manually, or they can be imported in via CSV format. So I'll show you first of all how to set up an employee manually. To do this, simply click on New Employee on the menu bar. Okay. And you're presented with several tab headings here. So it's really a case of just working through each of these screens. So our first section is the personal section, and you'll be asked for the basic information about name, address, their gender, their date of birth, passport number if no, marital status, and also the option to enter an email address. And that's particularly useful if you wish to email your employees their pay slips or their P60s at the end of the year. So for RTI purposes, mandatory fields here on this screen are the forename and the surname, their gender. If you don't have a national insurance number for them, then their address is mandatory too. Okay. Date of birth is optional, but we do recommend entering it into the software, especially with auto-enrollment now, where some of the pension providers require the date of birth to be entered. So if you have it, we do recommend that it is entered in. I'm just going to quickly just fill in some details here. And an email address here. So with the email addresses and likewise with the phone numbers, more than one can be added, and you can also assign whether they're work related or personal email or phone numbers. Here's the same again with phone numbers, whether it's a work mobile, home or personal mobile, etc. So you can assign that there. Okay, so once your personal section is completed, you then move on to the employment section. Okay, so here you'll be asked for a works number, should you wish to use one. Also to assign the employee to a department or more than one department if required, and then also to complete information on their annual leave entitlement and how many days they're allowed. Okay, sorry, just bear with us there a second. Thanks very much. Okay, so first of all, if you have a works number to enter, you can enter that in here, and then department. So if I'm to assign Jemima here to a department, I simply click on Add Department Association, and I select the department I require. Okay. If she is working in more than one department, I then click on Add Department Association again, and I choose the next department here. So you'll see here that a weighting bar has now come up because she's assigned to more than one department. And this is where I can set the weighting for each pay period. So it could be that she does 60% of the week, for example, in the admin department, and the 40% then in the sales department. Okay. Further down then in this section here, this is all connected with the annual leave entitlement. So you can tell BrightPay here when their leave year starts. You can select the date here. So again, this is all brought in by the typical employee settings that we set at the very beginning. You can then choose their annual leave entitlement. So BrightPay caters for 5 methods for annual leave entitlement. So all depending on whether they accrue holidays by number of hours worked, or whether they're entitled to set number of days, etc. Also then, if they're being paid, if they're entitled to a set number of annual leave days, then how many days they are allowed in the year. And then also if you honour employees to carry over annual leave that they may not have used in a previous leave year. Okay. Underneath that then you can set the employee's working days, and it is important to get this section correct because this is all linked to the employee's calendar, and when it comes to maybe calculating statutory payments, for example sick pay, the employee's typical working days will be taken into account in the calculation. Okay, so once that section is completed, we can then go into the starter leaver section. In the start date then, the employee's start date can be entered, and this can be a historical date. It doesn't have to be within the current tax year. So it's if you want to basically make a record of their recruitment date, this can be done here. For example, Okay, and then should the employee leave in the year, then you would obviously come into this section and enter their leave date, and I'll be covering that later with you, so we'll be popping back into this section at that point. Moving on to the payment section then. So how is the employee to be paid? So BrightPay caters for, well, currently for 4 pay frequencies. So we cater for weekly, fortnightly, 4-weekly and monthly, and in the next week or so we are actually going to be releasing an upgrade to BrightPay 15/16, which will facilitate an annual pay frequency as well. That has been a common request, so we're bringing that into the software for you. Okay, so I'm going to just pop this employee on a weekly pay frequency. And I then have the choice then how I'm going to pay the employee. So I have 3 options. I can pay on a weekly rate or based on an annual salary, for her pay to be based on a daily rate or to be based on an hourly rate. So in this example, I'll just pop her onto a weekly rate. And underneath then I can then enter the amount that she is going to be receiving. That's not set in stone. If you also wish to pay the employee by, using an hourly rate or a daily rate, they can then be assigned as well, and will be available for selection on the employee's pay slip. In the payment section then, you will then be asked for their payment details, so whether they are to be paid by cash, cheque or credit transfer. If using credit transfer and you are going to be using the bank payment file facility that we looked at and just mentioned before, then you will need the employee's bank details. So I'll just quickly fill some in here just for a little later on when I'm showing you the file. For example, if I'd also ticked to apply a back sub-reference in the employer section, that would also be completed here. But just for simplicity, I'll leave that blank. Okay, so that then completes the employee's payment section. Moving on then to the tax, NIC and RTI section. By default, BrightPay will always enter the tax code 1060L, the current one for the current tax year, so the default tax code. That can be changed. So for example, if the employee is on a BR code, for example, so they can be changed as required. But just by default, we enter, and just again to speed things up for you, we use the personal allowance tax code here. Underneath that, then you have the option then to change the national insurance. So if A isn't applicable, you can use the change table checklist here, and just complete each section here. So specify what the employee's age is, whether they're in a contracted out pension scheme, and what their national insurance contributions liability is. So for example, if I tick to say they're 16 or over and under 21, that will prompt me to use national insurance table M, for example. If they're state pension age, it will put them onto national insurance table C, for example. Okay, so just again for simplicity, I will just leave them on national insurance table A here. You'll then also be asked whether the company itself is liable to employer NIC contributions or not. So again, there is just a little tick box if that is applicable. And then whether the employee is liable to student loan repayments. If they are, simply tick the student loan box. And if you have the start date and the end date for the student loan, then these can be entered in here too. These fields are optional. If you don't have that information, don't worry. Simply by ticking the box will ensure that the student loan deductions kick in straight away for you. Okay. Underneath, then you're asked for the national insurance number. So I'll just pop a dummy one in here. Okay. And then you're asked whether the employee is a director. So the setting up of directors is facilitated within this tax NIC and RTI section. So if you have a director to add in, all you simply do is tick to say they're a director. By default, BrightPay will apply the annual basis for their method of NIC calculation. If you wish to use the alternate method for calculating directors' NIC, you will simply tick the box here, just to tell BrightPay to use the alternate method instead. If the director is with you at the start of the tax year, then the start of directorship date can be left blank. But if they're joining mid-year, if they've got the directorship mid-year, then a date can be entered in here. And BrightPay will then pro-rata the annual earnings thresholds for you and basically apply those in the software for you. Okay. Likewise, if the directorship ends middle of the tax year, the date can be entered here as and when required. Okay. So further down, you'll then be asked for, I suppose, some additional information which is going to be included on the FPS when you're submitting your RTI returns. So first of all, you are asked for a payroll ID. BrightPay will automatically create these for you, so you don't have to worry about thinking up, 6-digit or 6-character payroll IDs. We will take care of that for you. An RTI requirement is that you report the employee's contracted hours per week. So again, we have the relevant options here as provided by HMRC. So I'll just leave that one as 30 hours or more. And then there's the option here to tick whether the employee is on an irregular payment pattern with you. So for example, if you have seasonal employees, they may only work the summer and then they go for the winter. Or somebody goes on long-term sick, or what we say usually is if there's a gap of more than 3 months where you won't be paying an employee. So you would tick this box then, and that would just let HMRC know that the employee is still very much in your employment and not to assume that they've left and that they won't P45 them at their side. So that irregular payment pattern will be flagged on the FPS for you in your RTI returns. Okay. So finally, just to complete the manual setup of an employee, you are then given a HR section here. Again, this is an optional section. There's no obligation to fill this in, but if you would just like to enter additional information about your employees, you can do so here. So for example, what their job title is, maybe what their starting salary is, for example, employment arrangements, little notes that can be added in. In the personal section, you saw that I entered an email address to facilitate the emailing of payslips and the P60. What you can do here in the HR section, you can also basically password protect both the payslip and the P60. A password of the employee's choice can be entered here, which means that on receipt that they will need that password to be able to open the documents that you have sent them. So for example, I'll type in a password there. Okay, and then I'm complete. So I'm ready to save the employee's record. So simply click Save at the bottom of the screen. And you'll see now that my one employee has been added. Okay, so that's how to set up an employee manually. Okay, sorry. So if I were to import my employees instead from a CSV file, so say for example I'm moving from another payroll provider, and that payroll provider that I have been with facilitates the exporting of employee information to CSV, then BrightPay can then bring that information in for you. And it's a pretty quick way of setting up your employees. So again, it will speed things up for you. So to import employees via CSV file as an alternative, you'll simply be clicking on the file heading, import export data. You select the option to import employees from a CSV file, and you browse to where you have your file saved. So you will have exported this maybe from your previous software, for example. So here's my CSV file here. I'm going to open it here. So you'll see here then it's brought in all my information in my CSV file. To speed things up here, I've actually got all my headings allocated, but what you would simply do is work through each of the columns and say what the data represents. So I have my title column, I have my name column, my surname column. So these will all be blank when you first select your file, and you'll simply just work through. So I have all mine selected here. Okay, so it's pretty comprehensive, the information you can bring in. Okay, so I'm just going to pop back here. And when ready, once I have all my columns assigned, I simply click on Import. And I have 10 employees successfully imported now. So these are added into the employees section of the software here. So you can see them here. If I click in here, there's my imported employees. So literally with a click of a few buttons, if you have the information to bring over from somewhere, it's a very quick process bringing them in. Okay, and it's something again that we would be happy to help with. I know different softwares can have different fields for things, so if you need any assistance, we can help you with that. Okay, so there you go. I have all my employees in here. So we are now ready to process payroll, and to do that, we simply click on the payroll heading here. So when you first begin your payroll year, you'll be asked to set up your payment schedules. So I brought in there in my CSV file import there some employees on a monthly schedule as well. So I'm now asked to set up my weekly payment schedule and my monthly payment schedule. It's important to get this right at the start. It can be quite tricky for people sometimes. We take a lot of calls on this sometimes. But basically, BrightPay asks for 2 pieces of information per pay frequency. So first of all, you will be asked what your first pay date will be. So for my weekly, it's asking me what my first weekly pay date will be here. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that as the 10th of April. This date is basically connected with your RTI, so it's so you can align your pay periods with your RTI submissions. So your first pay date here, so the 10th of April, that's a week 1 pay date for me. So I'm going to get, basically based on this date, 52 pay periods given to me. I'm then asked underneath then, what is the period I'm paying for? So for example, on a weekly basis, it can often happen that you're paying a week in arrears. So you may be paying today, for example, for last week. And the reason BrightPay is asking you for this information is so that when it comes to maybe processing statutory payments and attachment orders, etc., it can allocate the correct rates, etc., for you, then the correct calculations. So it could be, for example, so my first weekly pay date to be the 10th of April. And for week ending, I'm just going to change that just to be a day before the 9th of April. Likewise, then I'm also asked to set up my monthly schedule. So when am I paying my first month? So again, I'm just going to leave it just for simplicity, left as the 30th of April, and for the month ending the last day of April, but they can all be changed, for example. Here, you have a wide selection of days if, you know, it's just not a simple setup like that. We do recommend then that you do a quick preview of your pay periods just to ensure that you are covering the right number of pay weeks. If I had an early pay date in the tax year, I would be given 53 weeks here. So say I was paying, you know, my first pay date was falling on the 6th of April, I would have 53 pay dates showing here. And you can see here, if I just look at my monthly, I've got 12 months payroll here too. So I have the correct number of weeks and months that I'm looking for. Okay, so when ready and happy, you press continue. And we are into the first week of our payroll. So these tiles across the top here, these blue tiles, all represent the different weeks or months in this example, so the different pay periods for the pay frequency that you're in. So you'll see here that I have a little head in week 1, and the appearance of a head means that you have open pay slips there for processing. So you'll see here when I first go into payroll, I'm given what we call a summary view of our employees. So in other words, a payroll preview. This payroll preview, an awful lot of people like to print or export it to send to clients, just, you know, as a final check before they finalize the pay slips. And that can be done by clicking on More and print and export the summary for the pay period that you are currently in. Okay, so looking at the summary view, if I wish to edit an employee's payslip, I simply click on their name here. Okay, so you'll see here that I've just brought up Jemima Appleby. And by default, BrightPay will bring in what you've set up in her employee record. So I said she was to be paid a basic weekly pay of $500. So that's what I'm seeing on screen. BrightPay allows for unlimited pay items to be added onto a pay slip here. So for example, they can be more weekly pay amounts or hourly pay rates or a daily pay rate. Statutory payments as well, which I'll be covering later on with you, and also to add an unlimited number of addition and deduction types. So you'll see here, these are our preset ones and also the one that I created myself here. And again, deductions here on the right-hand side. So an unlimited number can be added on to an employee's pay slip. Okay, so say I'm happy with Jemima's pay here. Where there is a little spanner symbol, this means that the pay item can be edited in some way. If I click on the spanner here, you can see here that I have the departmental weightings that I assigned in her employee record. If I wanted to change that, I could just simply drag the bars to the relevant weightings, okay? And then when I finalize the payslip, that will be obviously picked up in the departmental analysis, you know, when you're doing your reports. Okay, a net to gross projection can also be done here. So if you pay your employees on a net to gross basis, then that can be used here too, where you enter the desired net pay in as opposed to the gross. Okay, so if I'm happy with her basic pay amount here, I may want to just add a couple of additions and deductions. So just as an example, she may have mileage and you may want to just pay a £50 there, so I can add that on. And she may be assigned maybe to the lottery, again, a global item that I set up earlier on, and these will all appear on the pay slip. Over on the right-hand side, then you have a live pay slip occurring. So as you enter items, this is automatically updating for you. So it's kind of the real live situation that you're seeing over on the right-hand side here. Again, with the additions and deductions, you can set weightings here. So it could be that all the mileage has been done while she's been working in sales. So you may just wish to set that departmental weighting accordingly. You can also change the repetition as well. So say she's likely to have mileage expenses every pay period. I can say to repeat until manually removed, or to repeat up to a certain date if required. Okay. What you can also do as well, just really for the purpose of the pay slip, you can reorder your additions and deductions if required. So if I wanted the lottery deduction to be above the mileage, I would simply just use the ordering system here just to move it up or down as required. Okay. Notes can be added to the employee's payslip. These can be employee notes or they can be employer notes. Simply in an employer situation, you want to add an employer note, they'll simply be on screen, so they won't flow through to an employee's payslip there. Okay, so that can be done here. Add a note here. Okay. So that's Jemima Appleby. So once one employee has been completed and you're happy with that, you can simply move on to next simply by selecting the name from the listing. So you'll see here that Ronan Burton, he is paid by the hour instead as opposed to a basic rate. So you'll see his default hourly rate coming through onto the pay slip. So it's just simply a case of filling in the hours here. So say he's done 30 hours in, say, possibly in one department, I can then add further rates if need be. So I can just keep on adding hourly rates as required. So it may be that he's done 10 hours somewhere else, or possibly that he's done 10 hours maybe at an overtime rate, or just if we could look here, if I just click on the default £10 here, if required, say that was at time and a half or double time, I can then just convert that quite simply. So say it was double time hours that he did. Okay. What I can also do here, just like the employees who are paid a basic amount each pay period, for those paid by the hour, I can also assign them to departments as well. And basically, the number of hours will be captured instead rather than a percentage weighting. To set departments, if I haven't already done so on the employee record, I can use this little shortcut key over at the right-hand side to edit settings. Okay, I can click into employment and I can add departments in accordingly. So it could be that he's marketing and sales, for example. And that will then give me this extra option here to assign the hours to particular departments. So it could be that he's done 30 hours in marketing this week and 10 hours in sales. So again, in my analysis function, I will be able to get a breakdown of that accordingly, which will bring up the hours for that. Likewise, for an hourly paid person, unlimited additions and deductions can also be added to their pay slip as well. So it could be that he has a little bit of commission this week. Just to show you the different examples, maybe an expense reimbursement, for example. So you can just keep adding as required. Okay. Just moving on to the next employee then. So this is an example of somebody who is daily paid. So again, the rate coming through onto the payslip is what I have set up in her employee record. Again, that can be altered, just like the hourly rates, so to be time and a half, time and a third, double time, etc. Additional rates can be added here if needed, or if you wish to edit the standard rate, you may say, well, actually, no, I wanted that should have been 120, for example, and you can change it accordingly here. With daily paid employees, you'll see here that 5 days is coming automatically. I did not type anything in that field, and that's because with the daily paid employees, it's all connected to their calendar that each employee has. Simone's typical working days are Monday to Friday, so in a typical working week, she does 5 days, so hence that's where the 5 is coming from. So if I just show you the calendar here, so we're paying, for in the week here, so there could be 5 days here. If I mark off then just 1 day, just to show you, if I mark that as a non-work day, it now sets the number of days in the week to 4 because she's only got 4 working days in that week now. Okay, so there's an automatic functionality with the daily paid people. If that's something you don't wish to have working, you can turn that off, and that will then allow you just to amend the days accordingly here. Okay, again, likewise with the hourly paid and basic pay amount, employees, additions and deductions can all be added onto the pay slip as and when required. Okay, so it's simply a case of just working through each of the employees and updating their pay slips accordingly. And if you just pop back then, once complete, to the weekly summary, you will have a final overview of that pay period in question. Okay, so when ready, once you are happy with the amounts entered, you are ready to finalise your pay slips, and that is done simply by clicking the Finalise Payslip button on the menu toolbar. Okay, so by default, all employees will be ticked here, and that is assuming that you have all their pay information in place and you're ready to update everybody at the same time. In the event that you may be, and it does happen, that you are missing pay information, I know we hear this quite often, that people are waiting for timesheets to come in for some people and it's holding things up. With BrightPay, we will allow you to finalise payslips just for some employees, so you don't have to update everybody all at the same time. So for example, could be just be saying, just as an example, that I'm just waiting on pay information with these 3 people, and I click on OK, and my other employees will now be updated for that pay period. So the presence of a green tick will indicate that their payslip has been finalised, and no green tick will indicate that their payslip is still open. Okay, you'll see here now that I have 2 heads visible on my payroll schedule for my weekly frequency, and that's really just to indicate to me that I do have payslips now open in week 2 for those I finalised, and also that I've still got payslips outstanding in week 1. Okay, say I now have this information here, I can just pop back in at any time and finalise those payslips. What BrightPay also allows you to do as well is to amend the pay date. So by default, it's picking up the pay date I set at the time of setting up my weekly schedule at the very beginning. But it could be that you have different pay dates for different employees. You may pay directors, for example, on a different date, or your credit transfers go through on a different date than the cheque payments, for example. So I can change that pay date if needed. And I can click on OK. Okay. So I now have all my pay slips finalised for week 1. So I am now ready to print the pay slips or email or export them. So we facilitate the 3 options in BrightPay. So first of all, to print the employees' pay slips, simply click on Print Pay Slips on the menu bar here. Okay. So first of all, you have a few options for how you print your pay slips. So we facilitate the printing of pay slips onto plain A4 paper. So there is no requirement to have any pay slip stationery, thus keeping costs down if need be. The most common type would be the 2 per page A4 blank. So that will print 2 pay slips per page. So you'll have 2 employee pay slips on each page. Or we also facilitate an A5 blank, which prints in landscape format. If required, some people do like to use payslip stationery, then we do our own payslip stationery. The 2 types that we do, first of all, is a 2 per page payslip, which is perforated in the middle. And again, it will print 2 employee payslips on that. And along with that, then we also provide the window envelopes for you to pop the pay slips into. The second option we have is our A4 security stationery pay slips. This is it's kind of a pay slip and envelope pay slip all in one. So that all prints on the one sheet and you're able to seal it. It has the employee address on it, etc., for posting, for example. Popular request as well, we also are compatible with the Sage SE96 payslip stationery as well. So again, for a few people that have been moving across from maybe Sage to BrightPay and they have a good stack of their Sage payslip stationery left, we do facilitate printing onto that payslip type as well. Okay, so I'm just going to do it to plain A4 paper here, just to make it simple. In addition to the way you can print the payslip, you also have the option as the user to specify what appears on the payslip. Okay, and you use the options section here. So by default, we put certain things on, the things that are required on the payslip. But if, for example, you would like to, sorry, just 1 second there. There we go. Okay, so this, if you wish to customize the payslip further, you can click on the options section here, and for example, you might want to show the employee address on the payslip. You may just say, well, I don't want the BrightPay logo on it, for example, so I'm going to remove that. If you have your own company logo, that can be brought in as well. So yeah, you have a good few options here on how to customize the payslip to suit your own needs. Okay, so when ready, you can do a print preview. And here we have the employees' payslips ready to go. Okay, with all the relevant information. So they can either be printed directly to the printer, or they can be exported to PDF if required. Okay, so that's how to print the payslips. An alternative, should you wish, is to email the payslips instead. So I'm just going to click into the email payslip option here. To use this facility, employees need to have an email address entered in their personal section on the employee record. For those employees where there is no email address present, then BrightPay just will not display them. So I have 4 people here that have valid email addresses in, so I'll be able to email them their payslips. Over on the right-hand side then, you are just required to enter a reply to email address. This is usually the company itself, or I suppose the contact person if an employee has a query on the payslip. So I'll just do a different email address here, for example. And if anybody requires a carbon copy of that, an email address or more than one email address can be entered here as well. You then have a choice on the body text for the email. So when the employee receives the email, what message do they get? Again, by default, we have kind of a preset phrase in here for you, but you can customize that to suit your own needs. Should you wish to password protect the payslips, as we mentioned before, in the employee record, you can enter a password, which the employee is required to enter to view the payslip. Then you can tick to password protect the emails. So all we do here, we click on send email. Okay, just agree to the terms of use. And they are now queued, ready to be sent. So they come via our own email server. They tend to batch we often say that they do batch every hour, but we often find it's within a few minutes of sending. So they're pretty quick to go to the employees. Okay, so we just close that when ready. The third option, particularly in a bureau environment, often a client may require the payslips to be sent to them as opposed directly to the employees. So the export payslips option will facilitate that if need be. So again, it's similar to the print payslips and then the email payslips. You can do all the same thing here, in that you can customize what appears on the payslips. So all the same settings. And again, you can password protect the payslips once you've saved them to PDF. And all you do here is simply click on the export, and they are exported to the location you've chosen, to your desktop, for example, or a certain folder. Okay. Another option available in the payroll here, once you finalize your payslips, is also to generate a pay analysis for your own use. So if I click into pay employees here on the menu bar, you'll see here, so I have a variety of payment methods here for my employees. So I have cash payment method, check, and credit transfer. So you'll see here that I get, for those paid by cash, I'm provided with a cash payment breakdown, if that is any use to anybody. I then get a check payment breakdown too for those that are paid by check, and also then the credit transfer employee. So I just have the one employee here. It's in the screen then, just as we mentioned earlier, BrightPay does facilitate the bank payment files for upload into your banking software. So as we said, if you're set up with your bank, this is a way of facilitating the bank upload. So if that is something that you do, you would come in here. All the employees that are on credit transfer will be listed, and hopefully all their bank details, which we would have entered in their employee record. And you would simply click on Bank File. So here you'll see I have my 2 bank accounts that I set up in my employer section. So say I'm paying from Barclays Bank. Okay, I choose that file format. If need be, I can change the bank file format here if I've assigned it incorrectly when setting up. And I simply save the file. So I say, for example, save it to my desktop. Okay, that file is then ready for upload into your banking software. So you're finished with BrightPay as such at this point in terms of the bank payment file. Log into your banking software and upload that file to pay your staff. Okay. So once you finalize payslips, BrightPay will automatically generate your full payment submission for submission to HMRC. And you'll see here that we have a dedicated RTI section in the software. And you'll now see the appearance of 2, the number 2 here. And that's basically to tell me that I have 2 RTI full payment submissions outstanding. If I click in here now, so if you remember, I paid some staff on the 10th of April, and then I changed the payment date for 3 of my employees. So hence I have 2 full payment submissions to submit. Okay, so all I do, it's very seamless. Click on your first full payment submission, click on Send Now. Okay, just in this example today, obviously we're in May and I'm backdating this just for the purpose of the demo to a week 1 pay date. So I'm actually being asked for a late reporting reason. If you are genuinely late, the reasons are given here for you to choose. So I'll just pop on here that it's a reasonable excuse and I'll just Send Now. I'm just using test credentials here, so it may just take a little bit of time if it is going to go through. Okay, it's just taken a little while there, but I'd say it's because of just the test credentials that are in. So what I could do there, say that did successfully go through there, I can just click on the Send button and I can mark it as sent and accepted. So we're just assuming this test environment that has gone through. And likewise, if I was to send that one, my second full payment submission, I'll just simply click on Send Now. So I'll just speed things up a little bit here. Just here. Okay, so they're marked as sent. So that's my RTI requirements completed there as and when I paid my staff. Okay, so just returning to the payroll screen here. So I'm now into week 2. So just to let you know additional things that can be done within the payroll that may assist you. So first of all there, you'll see here if I just click on my first employee here, BrightPay always remembers what you've done in the previous pay period. For some people that is good, for others they like to just maybe have a fresh start each time they're paying their staff. So what there is under the More section here on the menu bar is the option to zeroize your pay slips if required. So if I just click in here, so I have all my employees, for example here, so I can choose the items which I wish to zeroize. So it may be, for example, I know this is quite common that for those paid by the hour, you may just want to zeroize all the hours that are in against the pay slip. So I can say here, please zeroize all my hourly pays here. Okay, and then I can select the employees that I wish to apply that to. So I know that Ronan is paid by the hour and Casper here. So I'm going to click on OK. Okay, and you'll see now that when I click into Ronan's payslip, his hours from the previous period are now gone and I can have a fresh start. What can also be done as well, if you don't want to manually be completing the payslips, you can also bring in pay items from CSV file, especially if you use maybe a time import, like a clocking in system as well, and you have your hours and amounts elsewhere. This is facilitated again under the More heading. and the import pay records from CSV file option. So say, for example, I wanted to bring in my hourly payments. I just click on the import hourly payments option here and just scroll down. Sorry, just find the file. Okay, again, similar to the CSV import of employees, you just then select what each column represents accordingly. Okay, and I click on import. Okay, and it's brought in my hours from the CSV file for me. So again, a nice seamless process for you. What can also be done as well, if required, we facilitate the copying of payments from previous pay periods. So if a particular pay period is a repeat of another prior period, you can quickly copy payments across. Okay. And also to speed things up, especially if there's an awful lot of employees, under the More heading there, you were given a few options to add maybe certain things to multiple payslips. For example, if there is a set addition or a set deduction, or you want to add the same note, for example, to all payslips. So you can use this facility here to do the job all in one go for you, as it were. Okay, that can be done too. Okay, a filter option is also available. So if you want to, again, if you have a good number of employees and you just maybe want to possibly, for example, pay them, just bring up employees for a particular department, or you just wish to bring up your credit transfer employees or just your directors, etc., this can be done here too. So it could be that you bring up, say, the check people, the people that pay by check here, for example. So that's an option too. Okay. Just moving on then, as well as the basic pay items, attachment orders are also facilitated by BrightPay here. Okay, and to add an attachment order, under the Addition section, so I'm just going to choose my employee here, simply click on Add, click on Attachment Orders, and it brings you into the attachment order facility. Simply click on Add Attachment Order, and you'll see here this is the listing of all the preset attachment orders that we currently cater for. If there's one in the listing here, if there isn't one in the listing here that that you require, then you can use the other attachment order option at the bottom to set it up yourself. So in this example, say for example it's a council tax attachment order that you have received. We'll just click into here. So enter your description and your reference. I'll just quickly put some dummy information in here. The date it has been made, and the date to apply from. So again, I'll just keep it simple with dates, and the date to stop. For example, sorry, make that a year on. For example, and then in the amount and status screen, you can indicate whether it's to be a priority order, if there's more than one, for example, being applied to the employee's payslip. Also to deduct a £1 admin charge, should you wish to do so, for accounting for the attachment order, and then the field to enter the amount paid there. Okay, so I save that. If I just close that screen here, you'll now see that once I have it set up, that amount is now being applied to the attachment order is now being applied to the employee's payslip, and that will continue on until the date to stop is reached or is all paid back. Okay, pension schemes outside auto-enrollment are also easy to apply to a payslip as well. Say for example here, my employee here has maybe, say for example, a personal pension. They can be first of all set up within the pensions utility here. And by clicking on Add New Scheme, I'll be covering these later on, but here you have other pension schemes. So for example, the personal pension schemes, the contracted out salary related schemes, so all the current ones available. So say it's a personal pension, we just click in here. Again, I'll just keep everything pretty simple. Okay, so enter the basic information about the pension. Then I can then set whether the contributions are to be on a percentage basis or a fixed amount basis, both for the employee and the employer contribution. So I'll just make this easy here. And also to set up a default employee contribution. So if there's more than one employee assigned to this particular pension scheme, that these will be the default rates that are applied. Again, you can leave blank if it's going to be differing. And also at the bottom then, if it's going to be used for auto-enrollment, the earnings basis can also be set, which is particularly used for the percentage-based deductions. Contact and payment information, then again you can just enter details about the pension provider, what their address is, their contact information, and also their payment method information too. So I save the details of the pension scheme, and then if I return to the payroll and select particular employee, under the additions and deductions section I simply click on add, and that pension scheme will be added to the deduction listing here. So I click on personal pension, and I can assign the relevant deductions here. So it could be that the employer is doing, say, 5%, for example. Sorry, 5% there. Okay, and those pension deductions will be then applied to the payslip. By default, repetition for any pensions added are set to repeat until manually removed. So as I finalise payslips for this employee, that pension will always remain on the payslip and be applied to their payslip. Okay, and we finalise week 2. Okay, so week 2 is now finalised. So again, the full payment submission is automatically prepared for you. So it would now be the case of just popping into the RTI section and sending it to HMRC. So again, just to speed things up, just in this test environment, I'll mark it as sent and accepted here. Okay. So just moving on then to if you have mid-year starters and leavers in your payroll, how to cater for those. So first of all, if you have someone joining the company, your first protocol will be to go into the employee section and to create a record for them and to add them to your employee listing. I'm just going to use a quick shortcut key here just to bring in a dummy employee. Okay, so there's my employee there. So basically you fill everything in exactly the same way as we did before, and there's nothing different. Apart from then that you'll be going into the starter leaver section on their employee record and entering their start date. So I'll just enter a start date here of the 20th of April, for example. Okay. And as soon as I enter a start date and click out of the box, I'm then asked for further information about the starter. So first of all, whether the employee is someone who is is from overseas basically and continues to be employed by an overseas employer. And then, if not, to then select the correct starter declaration. So if the employee has come along with a P45, you can simply select the relevant declaration and enter their pay and tax details from the P45. Or if they don't provide you with a P45, then you can get them to complete the starter checklist, and based on what they answer, then select whether it's statement A, B, or C accordingly. Okay. So I'm just going to, in this example, say it's starter statement B. So I'm going to enter their details from previous employment. Don't worry too much if you don't have this information at the start. This can be filled in later. Sometimes if they're late bringing in their P45 to you, for example, or supplying the starter checklist before their first payday, you can come back into this screen at any point and update it. Okay. So you enter the details here, click on save, and the employee is now added to my employee listing. And if I pop back into the payroll, based on the employee's pay date, so they started with me on the 20th of April, so they have been added into my week 3 here because the start date of the 20th of April is falling in this week ending the 23rd of April here. So they are added to the correct pay period according to their start date. Okay, and I just then continue to process their pay slip going forward. In the next RTI then, so in the week 3 full payment submission that I prepare on finalising week 3, this new employee's details will be included on there, and I'll show you that in a second. Likewise, if you have a leaver, two things to do. So first of all, you need to ensure that the employee's final pay information is included in the final pay slip for the pay period that they are leaving in. So for example, say Donna Roberts here is leaving, so I just need to make sure that her pay slip is completely up to date, that I'm paying everything that I owe her. And what I can then do now, there's two ways of dealing with a leaver. You can either pop into the employee record and enter the leave date here, or alternatively, at the time of finalising the pay slips, you can click on the spanner symbol next to the employee's name and enter the leave date here. Okay, and save. And you'll see that you have the presence of a yes here, and also the presence of a yes against the starter here, just to indicate the change in the new employee and the employee leaving. So I click on OK. That produces my RTI for me. Okay, and if I just view that now, I'll just scroll down and find where I am. So there's Donna Roberts with her leave date in the full payment submission. And there's my Mr. Lionel Levine, and his start date and his starter declaration information is there for him in the FPS too. Okay. So I'll just mark that as sent. Okay. So with a few weeks processed here, we're into week 4 of the payroll. Now, it does happen. We're not all perfect all of the time, but it can happen that mistakes happen. Payroll has been finalised, and it then comes to light that an amendment is needed to an employee's payslip. So BrightPay does facilitate this. So say, for example, in week 3, I need to make an amendment to an employee's payslip. So on the menu bar, you have the option to reopen payslips. So simply click into the pay period you wish to reopen, click on Reopen Payslips on the menu bar, and you select the affected employee. So it could be all, or it could just be 1 or 2. So simply select the employees that you need, and you click on OK. Okay, this reopens that employee's payslip. So I can make my change here, and I can re-finalise that person's payslip. Now, where a change has happened, you'll see now that I'm not given an RTI prompt as such, and that's because that employee has already been included in a full payment submission for that pay period. So that change I've made has not obviously been picked up as such at this stage. So what BrightPay does facilitate is for you to be able to do an additional FPS if required, and that's just to report any amendments made to employee pay slips. So you simply click on New in the RTI section, select the additional FPS option, and just select the affected employee. So in this case, it's Ben Taylor, and I click on OK. Okay, and this will just report Ben Taylor's reported year-to-date figures to HMRC. So it will replace what was in the previous full payment submission. So I simply click on Send, and again, I'll just mark as sent just to speed things up there. So we do facilitate an additional full payment submission. In the event here, say I'd finalised week 4, for example, here, and I had my RTI full payment submission outstanding here. If I then decided to make a change and finalise the payslips, because I haven't sent my full payment submission, the change I've made will be automatically updated in this full payment submission that is still there to be sent. Okay, so when making correction, it's all down to whether or not your full payment submission has been sent already for the pay period in question. Okay, so just something to bear in mind. So if it hasn't been sent, your original full payment submission will be updated accordingly. If it has already been sent, then it is an additional FPS that can be done for the employee. Okay. Likewise, you can go back further if need be. So say you're in a particular week and you need to go back more than one week in this example, you can reopen back. Good thing about BrightPay is that it always remembers what you've done in the weeks after that. So if it's just a simple change in 1 week and you don't actually want to change the subsequent weeks, then BrightPay will remember that original detail for you. Okay. So just moving on, just want to just reopen week 4 here. So BrightPay also covers all statutory payments for you, so all the current statutory payments, so be it sick pay, maternity and adoption pay, the paternity pay options, and also since the 5th of April we now have the shared parental leave and pay in place too. So statutory payments are facilitated again through the payroll screen. Yeah. So taking just one employee here as an example, so say Tanya Peters here, say she goes out sick for a few days and you wish to pay her statutory sick pay. So to facilitate this, all you do is click on the calendar, okay, and you mark off the days that she is out sick. So I'm just going to assume in this example she's out from the 24th to the 30th of April. Over on the right-hand side then you indicate to BrightPay what the type of leave is. So in this example it's sick leave, and it will automatically highlight those days for you in red to indicate that the employee is out sick. Down on the right-hand side here, BrightPay will then work out what the qualifying days are, what the waiting days are, and then how many statutory sick pay days she is entitled to. So in this example, she has 3 waiting days, and so she's entitled to 2 sick days in this pay period. So if I return to her pay slip, okay, this will be brought through onto the pay slip. I've probably got very low pay in for her, hence why it's not calculating it. So I'm just going to show you here, just override the amount here. So 35.38 is coming in for 2 days of sick leave. Okay. Likewise, say for example an employee is going on maternity pay, just to show you how simple it can be done. So I'll take Jemima Appleby here. Okay, so again, click into her calendar and simply highlight the start of leave date on the calendar here. We have a dedicated section here on the right-hand side for parenting leave. So simply click on that and select the type of leave it is. So in this example, we're going to do maternity leave. And it will bring you up then a date box really, where you can fill in all the relevant information. So you can select what the expected birth date is and what the start of leave date is, and also the length of leave. By default, we default to 39 weeks, but that can be changed accordingly. Okay. BrightPay then will automatically calculate the expected week of childbirth and also the qualifying week for determining average weekly earnings. So the qualifying week here is the 18th of January. If the employee goes out with a pregnancy-related illness, and I think so, is it 4 weeks? I think it is. Just have to check that, but it will kick in maternity pay earlier on that, so that's all programmed in if the illness start date is in the relevant period. Again, by default, BrightPay will attempt to calculate the employee's average weekly earnings for you. If you wish to override that and enter it manually yourself, you can just untick the box and enter the average weekly earnings here. Okay, and click on Save. Okay, and it will complete the employee's calendar now with the block of maternity leave for you. So if I return to the payroll now, you'll see that the statutory maternity pay is now flowing through onto her pay slip. So we have a situation here that because I'm at the start of a tax year and I wasn't using BrightPay before, I've no historical data in the software to be able to calculate her average weekly earnings. The qualifying week was back in January, which was the 14-15 tax year. So what I need to do in this instance is just override that amount. So if you're happy that the employee is entitled to the maternity pay, simply click on the spanner and you can override the employee's average weekly earnings here. So she's on 500 a week. I'm going to type that in, and BrightPay will then calculate the relevant statutory maternity pay for you. So it will do 6 weeks at the upper rate, and then the standard rate of the 139.58 will kick in for you in this example. Okay, Just to give you a quick demonstration of the shared parental leave, how that operates. So again, if I just take Ronan Burton here, and click on his calendar, and say he is going on shared parental leave on the 29th of April. Again, click on parental leave, choose the shared parental leave option, and complete the dates accordingly. So I'll just pop some dates in here. 9th of April. Okay, so enter the leave details in here. Then you're given a section to enter the blocks of leave. So under shared parental leave, employees have the right to book a maximum of 3 separate blocks of leave, although an employee can agree to more. So those blocks of leave can be recorded here. So say he wants to take 2 weeks from the 29th of April, and then he may later on decide, say in June as an example, to take maybe say 4 weeks. So I can add the blocks of leave in here. For RTI reporting purposes, you also need the the partner information, so their name, surname, and national insurance number, for example. Okay, and those blocks of leave again will be applied to the employee's calendar. And I close out. So you'll see in this example, Ronan's shared parental leave is starting on the 29th of April, and my week ending date is the 30th of April. BrightPay uses what we call the full statutory payment week method when calculating statutory payments, as opposed to the pro rata method, which some software providers use as an alternative. Both methods are perfectly acceptable with HMRC. So you'll see there that because it's a partial week, the shared parental pay isn't flowing through in this week. But if I finalise the pay slips, in the following pay period, because there is now a full week of the leave that BrightPay can see, then the shared parental pay is kicking in. Again, due to lack of historical information, just with it being at the start of the tax year, I will just need to override that, just make it simple there, and the shared parental pay will kick in for you. Okay. That's it. The other statutory payments, like the adoption, etc., work very much the same way. You're all given, a screen just to complete the dates, and then BrightPay will apply it accordingly in the correct pay period for you. Okay. So just moving on, as you're updating your payroll periods, the HMRC payment section of the software is keeping a constant track of what you owe to HMRC. So if I just click into this section here, first of all, you just have to set up your HMRC payment schedule. So whether you're on a monthly or quarterly arrangement with them for your payments to them. So just assuming a monthly schedule here. So you'll see here that I've got month ending the 5th of May. So my tax month 1. This is giving me then an overview of what I owe to HMRC in terms of my tax liability, my NIC liability, etc. And also then if I have had any statutory payments going through, the recovery amounts there that I can claim back. Also on the same screen, if you have suffered any CIS deductions, they can be entered here too. Or if you've received any monies from HMRC to refund tax or statutory pay, etc., this is where you fill in. Once this section is complete, you can enter a payment date against it. So obviously you'll be probably completing this after the 5th of the month in question. So say it's now the 6th of May. We do understand in a payroll bureau environment that often the person processing the payroll doesn't necessarily know the amount paid or what date it has been paid on, because it's often the client's responsibility to do that. This screen here is simply an admin tool, so it doesn't matter that you don't have an amount paid in or that the correct payment date is in either. But you do need a payment date in to basically close off the tax month in question, and also to facilitate the processing of an EPS, your employer payment summary here, which I'll show you now. So don't worry if you don't have all the correct information here. It's not flowing through anywhere as such. So I can save changes. Okay, I'll just pop back to that in a second. So once this overview is completed, you can then print a P30 or export it to PDF should you wish to send this over to clients, for example. So that's the P30 printout there for you. Or you can also do a P32 employer payment record as well. This has got all the months or quarters on the one report for you, so a thorough breakdown of all your amounts there. Okay, so you'll see now that because I have statutory payments in and I've got recoverable amounts, I am actually now due to put through an employer payment summary to HMRC. Okay, so I can click on send now, or I can go into RTI, click on new and choose the employer payment summary option here. So there's two ways into this. Okay, so you'll see by default, because I have statutory payments entered and I have recoverable amounts in the tax period in question, this is ticked by default. Other things you can do via the EPS, as you probably know, is to report any future periods of inactivity. So simply you would tick the box and enter your future dates. Also to report no payment for periods, so for any historical periods, if there's been no payroll processed and there's no FPSs due, you can indicate that on the EPS. Also to claim the employment allowance here via the EPS. To include bank details on your EPS submission, so if there's due any refunds, for example, they can come through. And again, those bank details are picked up from the employer section of the software there. As you can see, and also then the final submission indicator for year end, should it be your final EPS of the year. So again, I simply click on OK. My EPS is displayed on screen, and again, simply send now to submit. Okay, so again, I'll just speed this up for you and mark as sent. Okay, and that's your EPS submitted. Okay, just probably one more thing to cover, just really from in terms of your day-to-day payroll processing in terms of the payroll functionality. You also are given an analysis function in the software. Okay, so for any of your reporting requirements, this can be accessed at any time by clicking into analysis, and you have a few options available here. We have created some favourite reports for you. These are already preset, and they're probably just based on the most common payroll reports that people use. So for example, a payroll summary, and you would simply click on here, select your criteria. So I'm in a weekly payroll here. I might want to do from week 1 to week 4. I might want to have an employee and a departmental breakdown on there, for example. I can select which employees to view, and then also the information to include in the report. So I simply run report to display that on screen. Okay. More than one report can be opened at any time. So say, for example, I wanted a statutory pay report. I can run that, and they can all be viewed separately here. If the favourite reports don't suit your needs and you want to create your own, then you have full control over this. Simply click on New Report, and you basically, again, just set the criteria and the parameters that you wish for your report. So what your period type is, what you're reporting on, which employees you wish to have in. And if I click on Add and Remove Columns, you'll see here all the information that can be brought in here. So year-to-date figures, for example, and employer items. Okay, so you simply create your own report. Okay, you can then give a name for the report. So, for example, you can run report, and then you can subsequently save that. And you can also make it a favourite report, and that is then added to your favourite bar as well for future selection. Okay. Reports then can be managed here. So if you wish to say, well, I'm never going to, use the additions report, just as an example, you can delete it. So it's removed from your list. And also those that aren't marked as favourites can be selected here too. Okay, so you have lots of flexibility here. All reports can be printed and also exported to Excel, to CSV file, and also to PDF. So a good few options for printing and exporting there. Okay. So just moving on, I just want to quickly just show you the year-end procedure. So I'm just going to just minimize my 15-16 BrightPay. I'm just going to open up 14-15 because it's pretty current. So I'll be able to show you this quickly. So I'm now in the 14-15 software here. So your year-end procedure in BrightPay can be completed in 4 steps. This is done first of all. So you'll see here that I have pretty much all my payroll up to date in a 14-15 company here. So step 1 is to ensure that all your pay slips for all employees or relevant employees are finalised up to year end or the point that you need them to be. So I have a pay slip open here. I'm going to finalise. Okay. Once all payroll is finalised, then ensure that all your full payment submissions are submitted to HMRC. So again, I'm just going to mark this as sent here. And then ready to move on then to do my EPS for them. Okay. So step 2 is then to enter the HMRC payment section and make sure that each of your tax months or quarters are completed accordingly. So you need a payment date against each of them. So you need to make sure that in this example, I have a payment date there against tax month 11 and then tax month 12. Okay, and the reason I'm doing this is so that my EPS is reporting the full year-to-date figures. So in terms of statutory payments, CIS deductions suffered, so that with having 12 months completed here, I'm picking up 12 months of figures. So that's step 2 completed. So make sure you have payment dates against all months and quarters. You then pop into RTI, click on New, and step 3 is then to send your EPS, so your final employer payment summary for the year. Okay, so you'll see here that it's defaulting to tax period 12, which is what I like. Tick to say that it's your final submission, click on OK, and then submit that to HMRC. And that's your final EPS sent into them there. Step 4 then is to print or email the employees' P60s, and that's facilitated in the employees section. And if you select one employee, you'll see that each employee has a P60 tab. So simply click on P60. You have the option to print to plain paper, which is approved by HMRC, or to print to HMRC their own pre-printed stationery, or to email the P60s as well. Rather than to do them on an individual basis as well, you can actually choose the option to view or print them for multiple employees. So again, just speeding things up for you, and off they go. Some people may have a step 5, and that's where they have to make a correction to the payroll after they've submitted their final full payment submissions. If it's before the 19th of April, say I reopen this particular pay period here, okay, and make a change and finalize. Okay. If it's before the 19th of April following the end of the tax year, I will facilitate reporting this to HMRC via the additional full payment submission. So I would click on here, sorry, put my dates out here, but I would send an additional FPS. If it's after the 19th of April, when you have made a correction, then BrightPay does facilitate the earlier year update. We know that some software providers don't facilitate that, but we do here. So as it is after the 19th of April here, I would click on earlier year update, select the employee that I made a change to, click on OK, and there's my EYU, and it's reporting the change only. So I increased her pay by 500, so that's what it's reporting to HMRC. So the EYU is simply submitted accordingly there. So that would be step 5 for those people where amendments are needed. Okay, so it's again a nice quick year-end procedure for most people. Okay, so that completes the payroll functionality for you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best just at the end if time allows just to answer those for you. I'm just now going to move on to the auto-enrollment side of things. So I'm just going to close out here. Okay, I just have a company set up here for auto-enrollment, just with some payroll processed. Okay. So I have a demo company here just to use. So as soon as you have your staging date from the pensions regulator, this can be entered in the pensions utility of the software here. You'll see here that we have a dedicated screen for auto-enrollment. So if I click in here, basically in the staging date, in the designated field provided, this is where you enter your date in. So I'm going to assume in this example that we have the 1st of May 2015 as our staging date. By entering the staging date here, this will ensure that your on-screen alerts will kick in at the correct time for you, just to notify that you now have automatic enrolment duties to perform. Okay. Setting up your automatic enrolment pension scheme is also straightforward, and it's done within the same utility, and simply by clicking on Add New Scheme and selecting either from the listing if we cover one of the pension schemes that you're using, or if it's not one we cover, you have the option to use the other automatic enrolment qualifying scheme option just to create your own setup there. You'll see here that we have a number of preset pension schemes. I think we have about 8 in total there. And this means that we offer dedicated support for these. And by that, we mean that it can do the full process for you. So as well as applying the pension deductions to the employee's payslips, BrightPay can also then create the contribution files and, where applicable, the enrolment files for upload into the pension providers, their web portals as such. Okay. These are what we cater for at the moment. This list isn't limited, and if you have any pension scheme that you are using or are likely to use, please do contact us. Again, similar to the bank file facility. Again, if we can get a file specification from the relevant pension providers, if it's simple enough, we can bring that in for you, and if demand is there as well. Okay, so please don't think that this is all that we cover. We may be covering more in the future. Okay, so to set up a scheme, you simply choose the relevant option from the listing. So if I am to assume Nest here, I'll just use Nest as an example. Simply choose Nest from the listing. Enter your employer reference, and this is how you will have it set up with Nest. Nest will give you this information. And on the following screen then, you can enter in details of your group. So again, this is, you will enter in exactly how you have them set up with Nest originally. So you're just basically repeating information here. So say, for example, it's weekly, and you've set up a group called weekly. On the same screen then you can also set the contribution rates that are applicable. So to use, for example, the minimum rates, or to use the 2018 minimum rates, or to enter your own customised contribution rates if applicable. Okay. Further down, you can then set the earnings basis, so whether to use the standard qualifying earnings, or again to enter your own customised qualifying earnings. Okay. Further groups can be added. So for example, especially where you may have 2 pay frequencies, you may have a group set up for your weekly staff and then maybe one for monthly, or you may have different categories of employees. For example, management might be making higher contribution. They may have higher contribution rates, and then the other staff may have different. So more groups can be added, so more than one can be added here. When you have your record set up, you simply click Save. Okay, so again, just to speed things up, I have a Nest pension set up here across the top. Okay, so moving back to payroll, once you reach your staging date in the software, BrightPay will then automatically begin to assess your employees for you. And you'll see here that the appearance of these little flags and also these yellow alerts, this is bringing to your attention that you now have automatic enrolment duties to perform. So we'll see here with Jemima Appleby, So I have the option here to view options. So I'm going to click on this. So we'll see here that BrightPay has automatically assessed Jemima as an eligible job holder. So we are given the option here based on eligible job holder status to either enrol her, to postpone her, or to mark her exempt. So in this instance, we will assume that we're going to enrol her. So simply click on enrol. Select the scheme you're enrolling her in. So I'll enrol her into Nest, and then select the applicable tax relief and press continue. And Jemima is now enrolled into Nest, just with a click of a few buttons there. Once an employee is enrolled, BrightPay will also take care of the communications that you are required to give to the employee. So now she's enrolled, BrightPay will now produce the enrolment letter to give to Jemima. So to do this, I simply click on letter, and I have a few options here. So I can either print the letter to give to her, I can export to PDF, or if I have her email address entered in her employee record, I can email this enrolment letter directly to her. So I'll assume in this example, I'm just going to print the letter. So I'm just going to press print and press print preview. And we can see a preview of her enrolment letter on screen. These letters are all standardized for you based on the pension regulator's requirements. So you'll see here this letter will contain details maybe of, for example, of her staging date, what her contribution rates are, her options for opting out, should she choose to do so, and also, I suppose, general information about automatic enrolment and what it will mean for her. Okay, so if happy, I just press on print to print the letter, and I can return back to the screen here. Once printed or emailed or exported to PDF, so once the employee basically is in receipt of the communication, then I can tell BrightPay that this is done. So I can say mark as done for this employee. And Jemima is now taken care of there. You'll see her flag has disappeared, so I no longer have any outstanding automatic enrolment duties for her. Ronan Burton, and our next employee in the listing, he is being assessed as a non-eligible job holder by BrightPay. So again, if I click on view options, I am given 4 options for a non-eligible job holder status. So I have the option here to write to him, inviting him to opt in, should he choose to do so, to opt him in, should he decide that's what he would like to do, to postpone him, or to mark as exempt. Okay. So I say I'm going to send him his letter here. Again, with non-eligible job holders, you can print, export to PDF, or email their communication letter as well. Okay. Our third employee down, just to show you the different categories, Simone Pendleton is being assessed as an entitled worker. So again, BrightPay is prompting us just to view the options available for her. So for an entitled worker, again, we are given the option to write to her, inviting her to join the scheme, to mark her as joined, should she wish to do so, to postpone her, or to mark as exempt. Okay, so just slightly different options there based on each work category. Okay. A useful feature in BrightPay is also, and especially in a bureau environment, again, just to speed things up for you, is the ability to batch process employees. So rather than do them all on an individual level, you can also batch process employees. So taking enrolment, so to batch enroll employees, for example, so if I just take this employee here, she's an eligible job holder. So at the time of enrolling one employee here, okay, I'll just select the scheme, I will be given the option to enroll multiple employees with the same settings. So all I do, I click on the link, select the employees I wish to enroll, and click the Enroll Selected Employees option. All the employees are now enrolled just with that click of a button all at the same time. Likewise, their communications letters can also be printed, emailed, or exported to PDF all at the one time by using the Create or Send Letter for Multiple Employees option, and also then to mark as done for multiple employees. Okay. So again, if I return to the payroll screen, I've now dealt with their automatic enrolment duties there. Employees can also be postponed either on an individual or again on a multiple level. So if I take this employee here, say I wish to postpone Ronan Burton, I simply click on the postpone option. I just enter a deferral date in. This can be no more than 3 months away. So I can either just press continue here just to enroll him alone, or I can use the option to postpone multiple employees with the same assessment date and deferral date. So again, simply select the employees I wish to postpone and press continue, and all those employees are postponed all at the same time. Again, the postponement letters that you are required to give to the employees can all be printed, exported to PDF and emailed again in bulk, and also marked as done in bulk as well. Okay, and press continue. So you'll see now that I have no flags, so I've dealt with all my automatic enrolment duties for the employees that I have. So you'll see now if I just take the first employee here that has been enrolled, you'll see the pension contributions now being applied to the employee's pay slip. And if I finalize that, okay, and just do a print preview, those pension contributions are also displayed on the employee's pay slips with their information too. Okay, so returning back to the payroll. So where we offer dedicated support for a pension provider, that means that we can also produce the contributions and, where necessary, the enrolment files for upload into the pension provider. So Nest, in this example, is one of our pension providers that we have dedicated support for. So if I were now to produce, first of all, the enrolment file, which is needed at the start, and also then the contributions file for upload, I do this by going into the pensions utility, and under Nest, I select the enrolment file option. So again, it's just a click of a few buttons. So step 1, select the employees to include. Step 2, just choose, just enter in their payment source. So again, this is information that you've set up with Nest already. Okay, I can do a quick copy down. Click on Next, and this is the contents of my file. I simply save file to a location of my choice, and that file is now saved, ready for upload into Nest's web portal. Okay, so that's the enrolment file. Contributions files are also produced the same way. So after each pay period, you'll produce a contributions file. Again, just fill in the basic information, click on Next, select the employees that you are including. Step 3, if there's partial or non-payment contributions, you need to just enter the reason why. Click on Next, save the file again, and again, your contributions file is now ready for upload into Nest web portal. Okay. So BrightPay can also handle opt-out requests as well. So say an employee has been enrolled and you subsequently receive an opt-out request. This is facilitated by BrightPay simply by going into the employees section, selecting the employee in question and accessing their automatic enrolment facility. So once enrolled, you will be given the option here to opt out. So on receipt of an opt-out notice, simply click the opt-out button, enter in the opt-out reference that will be stated on the notice, press continue, say yes to opt them out, and then in the next pay period here, if the employer has already made contributions and you've ticked the box to basically allow the refund of that back to them, you'll see the refund of the pension contributions going back to the employee as applicable. Okay, so straightforward enough to process the opt-out requests. Okay. For your reporting requirements, should you wish to generate your own automatic enrolment reports, the analysis function will facilitate that. So you can simply click on New Report and create your own. You'll see here, if I just under the column section here, click on Add and Remove, under employer items. So for any pension scheme that I have set up, for example, these are my nest ones here, I can generate my own automatic enrolment reports. I'm sorry, way too many. And click on OK and run report. And I have an automatic enrolment report there for my use. Okay. Just a couple of other little things then connected to automatic enrolment. Back in the pensions utility tab under automatic enrolment, once you've completed your declaration of compliance, then you can make a note of the date that you have done that in the dedicated field provided here. And also just down below here, as we just mentioned, BrightPay will prepare your communications for you, so your enrolment letters, your postponement notices, etc. for you. If you haven't marked those communications as done in the payroll, BrightPay will continue to notify you of that. So you will constantly get a yellow alert coming up each pay period to say that you have outstanding notices or letters. We are aware that some people are signed up with a pension provider who are doing the communication side of things for them. So basically the payroll user is isn't required to basically use BrightPay to print or email the enrolment letters or postponement notices. So therefore, in that situation, you can turn those reminders off simply by unticking the fields here and clicking Save Changes. So, just so it's not an annoyance to you, those constantly coming up. Okay, so that's really kind of an overview of the automatic auto-enrollment process for you. BrightPay continues to monitor your employees for you. So say I have a new starter here. Just quickly set one up. Okay, so as I finalize my pay slips up, so obviously BrightPay will assess your employees at the staging date, but if I have any new starters, for example, just to show you. Okay, as I reach that particular pay period in which my employee has joined, I will now see that I'm getting, BrightPay has monitored them automatically for me. So I will get the appearance of the flag and the yellow on-screen alert to tell me that I have automatic enrolment duties to perform for that employee. So it does do ongoing monitoring for you automatically. Okay, so I think that just basically covers everything there in the training for today. There's a good few bits I haven't covered just really because of, just the time limitation. I just see here we have a good few questions in here.
Okay, yeah, thanks Vicky. I'll just let Vicky get a little glass of water. The poor thing has been chatting for 2 hours. So there is a lot of questions coming through, guys. So just to be aware, we'll send through a full list of all of the questions and answers after the webinar, hopefully I'd say by the end of the week, depends on how many questions we have here. We'll also send through a recording of today's webinar. I'm quite aware that there's a lot of information there to take in. So we'll send that out to everybody along with the questions and answers to everybody that's attended today's webinar. Also just to remind you that there is a lot of online videos and support documentation on our website. So if we did cover anything and you did forget it, there is online documentation and videos there, or we have our support line, or you can email support@brightpay.co.uk. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up some of our questions here, and as I said, we're going to try to get through as many questions as possible. We may have already answered some of the questions throughout the webinar, maybe after the question was raised, but as I said, we'll try to get through as many as possible. So I'm going to attempt to read out the questions, and if Vicky, if you wouldn't mind answering them for us. So question here, at present I produce pay slips, send to the client, produce FPS, send to HMRC via software I currently use. but the client is responsible for making payments. Am I right in understanding that by adding bank accounts, I can also arrange for the client's employee details to be paid from the client's bank account?
Okay, I suppose it comes back to that bank payment file facility that we offer. There's sometimes a general misunderstanding that BrightPay directly pays employees direct from the software, which it doesn't do. But where clients are responsible for making the payments direct to their employees, what you can do is, produce the bank payment file in BrightPay, email that over to them, and they then simply upload it into their banking software. So you can do most of the process apart from that final upload as such.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. So can you enter two pay dates for staff that are paid monthly, i.e. on the 15th and the 5th?
For the one employee, no, you can only enter one pay date per pay frequency, but you can pay different staff on different dates within the pay frequency in question. So you may have like 5 paid on one day and 5 paid on another date. That's perfectly fine.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Do you do one pay slip per page blank A4?
We don't. The only workaround for that is that you would select one employee and press print, and then select another employee, press print. Not a great workaround, but yeah, that would be the only option at the moment.
Okay. And sorry again, guys. Now, if we don't know the answers or anything to any of these questions, we will get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question: is there a layout of payslip that fits a standard C5 window envelope?
I will just have to check that for you, Terry. Okay. Unfortunately, yeah. Just off the top of my head, I just don't know.
Okay. So again, you just have to bear with us while we're trying to read out the questions live. Could you show how first 3-month probation period has different pay than month 4? I think that's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, at any time in the payroll, I mean, by default, what you have set up in the employee record always flows through to the first month, but you have full flexibility on the pay figure. So it's a manual adjustment. So that's fine. It's not set in stone. So each pay period you have, you can manually override amounts that are in.
Okay. Does BrightPay allow for CIS?
We don't cater for CIS directly in BrightPay, but we do have a separate CIS assistant package. It's a standalone package. But what we are doing is, for anybody who purchases a bureau license from us, we are providing our CIS software free of charge this year. So if you want more information on that, we can provide you with the link for that software.
Okay, does BrightPay do P11Ds?
It doesn't at the moment, but it's on the development plan for inclusion at the end of 15-16. So I'd say definitely for the 16-17 tax year, they will be in the software.
Okay, thank you. The next question. I like what I am seeing. Currently, I have only just bought a year's license, April, with the other software. Do I get a discount for switching over? So just, I might take that one there. We're, as you know, recently one of the preferred partners for tax assist accountants. So we are offering 25% off the first year for new customers. Yeah, so you can get your 25% discount. You can email either support@brightpay.co.uk, and if you just quote tax assist, we'll process that discount for you. So another one.
Just a question there: is the new starter checklist available from within the software? It isn't in the software, but if you press F1 when you're in the software, that takes you through to our online support section on the website. In there, we have a section on starters, and the starter checklist is in there for you.
Okay. There's a few questions rolled into one here. So can we import employee details in bulk to include AOE as well as maternity, holiday pay, etc.?
If it's a mid-year import and you're bringing across your mid-year cumulative information, maybe from a different payroll provider, then yes, kind of your maternity amounts, etc., can all be brought across.
Okay. Can we have multiple email accounts for sending payslips to employer/employees?
At any one time, you can only assign one email address, so when you're sending the payslips, they'll only go to one. For employer, you can use the CC option in the email facility just to make sure that more than one person gets a copy of the emails. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, send to the employee and the employer. Can annual leave be updated automatically as percentage of hours?
Yes, it can. If you pay your employees by the hour, BrightPay keeps an automatic track of the number of hours, and one of the annual leave entitlement methods is to apply the 12.07% method.
Okay, lots of questions going through from this member.
I can maybe get back to Ivan on some of those.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to get through the next question. Some of them are quite long-winded there, Ivan. So, as I said, we will get back to you on some of them if we don't answer all of them.
A common question there actually comes in from a few of our bureau users is that bulk processing and filing of RTI. Just so it doesn't have too much information on that, but an awful, we do get the question, especially in a bureau environment, can, if basically is there a click of a button to file all RTI submissions across a number of employers? It's something we don't do. We're kind of against doing it too, if we're going to be honest. It's just that we feel it can be quite dangerous, so the programs have taken that view. So at the moment we don't facilitate that.
Okay. Can we submit EYU?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Okay, can we have a recording? Yes, again, already covered that. The recording will be sent out to everybody, just if you want to pass it on to your staff for training purposes. Can letters be saved to PDF and on our letterheads? I presume that means, can you save the letters on a PDF to then print on your own letterheads?
They could be saved to, the enrolment letters and postponement notices can all be printed to PDF.
Yeah.
There's margins there as well, so you can adjust where the text appears. So it probably would. I haven't tested it myself, to be honest, but I'd say you could, I suppose, tweak the margins accordingly.
Please advise if BrightPay can cater for CIS paid and suffered.
Suffered, yes. Just in the HMRC payments, there is a little field there for you to enter CIS deductions suffered. For CIS deductions paid, that's our separate CIS software, so we don't deal with it directly in BrightPay. Something that we are looking at down the line, maybe bringing that functionality into BrightPay too. But at the moment, we have that package is separate to BrightPay as a standalone package.
Okay, I am aware that we're running and we're way over on time here, so
just quickly there, can you change an employee from weekly to monthly? Yep, you can switch an employee's pay frequency. It's under the More heading there in the payroll facility.
Okay. As I said there, everyone, there is a good few questions there that I didn't ask, so I think I know everybody is probably busy as well, so we'll email on the presentation, we will email on all of the questions, and of course you're quite please feel free to call our support line, which is available on our website, which is www.brightpay.co.uk, or you can email support@brightpay.co.uk. So thanks very much for everybody's time, and thanks, Vicky, for your 2-hour presentation.
That's no problem. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.